Hello, everyone, and welcome to our very first session we have today with a speaker, um, and especially a very dear friend and former colleague of mine, Anne Stein. So, first of all, thank you, Anne, for being with us and, answering all of my questions today. Um,
Right.
and apart from being my former colleague, you also achieved something really cool. You just got nominated or announced as AWS Community Builder. So, congrats for that. That's a
Thank
really
you.
great thing. And that is also one result of you being a speaker, right? Not only, but also. And maybe before really digging into more detailed questions, maybe you can just give us a quick glimpse about who you are. I know you, but the rest maybe not. About who you are and how your speaker journey went so far.
Of course. Hi, I'm Anne. I'm a cloud engineering consultant, and I actually studied tech-related stuff. So I did I was a dual student in e-commerce with a focus on informatics, and after that, I studied medical informatics and as a master's. And I've always been a working student, so I checked out a lot of fields within tech. So I was kind of in marketing. I was in the BI. I was in mobile app development. I was in backend development. I also looked into data science. And with that, I tried to figure out in which direction I want to go. And as you
Mhm.
can see now, I ended up with the cloud because I realized I like more backendish and DevOpsy stuff. And yeah, I just realized that, and that's how I ended up here. And yeah, my speaker's journey, I think it's kind of fresh still. I'm still kind of a newbie, I would say. I think I always liked presenting already at school, and I guess that's kind of the reason why I actually was brave enough to start at all. And I think also a soft start for me was like having workshops, for example, with you, because then you're on stage with like more than one person and you have like your coworkers. And whenever you cannot answer a question or you're just like have a blackout, your coworkers can just jump in and help you. And I think that was a great start into like talking in front of people.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, last year I started also giving tech talks. And now
Woohoo!
I'm talking to you.
That's right. And you just remember, you just mentioned the workshop we did together. And just, I mean, for the audience to just recap, would this also be something where you say like, hey, okay, that's actually a great starting point, especially if you are very new in public speaking, that you look for a peer, so you don't have to do it yourself?
Yeah, I think that's great because you can take your time to shine if you want and take
Mhm.
your speaking time if you want to and explain things within the workshop. It's more interactive. But also, if you're not really confident, you still have your peers that can
Mhm.
help you out. And I think that gives you more confidence and gives you like a first feeling how it is to talk in front of people and how it is to answer questions. So I think that's a great start, actually. Yeah.
Cool. So we have tip number one, which is look for peers if you're like really fresh starting your speaker journey. But as you mentioned, also you now are doing your own tech talks, let's say. And I think what a lot of especially fresh or speaking starters struggle with is finding a topic. So how did you approach it in the past, or how you're still doing it? Like, how do you find your topics?
Yeah, it's always kind of difficult, I think. But for me as a consultant, I love that I go to like many different projects. So maybe yesterday I did a
Mm-hmm.
migration and tomorrow I do an AI POC or whatever. So I get a lot of input and a lot of different use cases and I see a lot of
Mm-hmm.
different things. And I think that gives me a broad variety of topics and ideas that I could talk about. And I love taking topics that I worked on where I have hands-on experience
Mm-hmm.
and that actually maybe help the customer, or how we solved something or explaining a tool that was new for me, and it might be new for many other people. And I think that's one thing. And the other thing for me is whenever I want to learn something, sometimes you build these playground projects that end up in
Mm-hmm.
trash or like somewhere on your computer and you never use it
Yeah.
again. And I think it's actually a great opportunity to also make a talk out of that because other
Mm-hmm.
people also might think about learning that, or they also learned it and had a lot of challenges and just want to talk to you how you're
Yeah.
like how you handle some challenges. And I think these are like the two main inspiration sources, I would say, that I
Mm-hmm.
use for finding a topic.
Cool, but that's a very good thing. And also what you mentioned with the pet projects. I mean, you don't necessarily have to be a 20-year-old, 20 years of experienced expert in something, right? It's also rather
Exactly.
like looking for something where you can definitely share your experiences, but not so much being an expert for 10 years, right? So
Yeah.
relax, newbie speakers. You
Yes,
don't have to
exactly.
do that for 20 years, right?
Yeah, and it might also give you some confidence if you talk about, like, first talk about rather beginner topics, because you might have more knowledge in that
Mm.
field. Even your actual knowledge is already deeper, but you feel more confident answering questions, for example. And I think maybe that helps for having a soft start.
Yeah, that's cool. Um, I actually remember when you were giving your very first talk, and I could also remember your story before and after, but the audience doesn't. So maybe you can tell me a bit, like, how was your very first talk? How was it before? How was it during the talk? How was it afterwards?
So my very first talk was actually at the user group in Hamburg,
Mhm.
and at the AWS user group in that case. And so before, it was for me like, oh, I think I want to try that and see how it goes and see if I actually
Mhm.
like giving tech talks. And that was like the experiment for me, of just trying it out, preparing, and see if I die on stage and hate it, or if I think, oh, I was actually fun and I want to do this again. So that was the whole thing. And yeah, I found the topic from the customer project back then, and just prepared the talk. And it was great. It was great because the audience was rather kind of small. It was like
Mhm.
20, 25-ish people.
Mhm.
And they were all really supportive. I got a lot of great feedback afterwards.
Awesome.
And yeah, that was an amazing feeling. And I just thought, like, yeah, it was fun. And it was also fun to see that, because I think, especially if you're kind of new to the tech world and kind of starting your job, you think all the others are way more experienced than me and stuff. And you always think like, oh, they're going to ask like horrible questions that I can't answer. But I actually had a topic that barely anyone knew anything about, and they were all just
Yes.
really curious about my
Mhm.
experience. And that was great to see, and I just loved that. And yeah, afterwards, I decided to take that talk also to the AWS Community Day in Spain. So that
Mhm.
was
Which
a
is
bigger
bigger.
audience.
Yes.
And yeah, also like that. So it was great for me to have like a small start, to try out the
Mhm.
talk, to put in some feedback that I got afterwards, because maybe something was not entirely clear. And then yeah, just like going step by step, to a bigger audience. And there was actually nice that there were some people that actually used that tool before. So
Mhm.
I was like, okay, you can help me answer questions, worst case. So I think
Very
that's
good.
also like an opportunity, honestly.
Yeah.
And you can talk to them about their experience, because back then we felt like we were the only ones using that, and there's no one
Mhm.
else having any experience. And I think it's a great opportunity to get into discussions and get into interactions with other people and exchange experience.
But out of curiosity, in Spain, were there many questions where you couldn't answer? Or was it rather the discussion
Mm,
afterwards, which was interesting for you then?
yeah, it was more the discussion afterwards. Exactly. It was not about yeah, the questions were fine. Yeah.
Yes. And that's, I think, also another, maybe not a tip, but also I think an experience to share. I would say, like, we always imagine like the worst audience and really mean questions, but quite often, or I would say in the normal cases, they are really not. And they are open and they're
Yes.
interested. And I also experienced it myself at one conference where I was deliberately giving a talk about me being very new in this topic and trying to share my journey, how I approached that topic, right? And
Yeah.
so also afterwards, someone came to me and said, like, yeah, I didn't want to ask in front of everyone because I wasn't sure if you can
Oh,
answer, right? And I found
that's
that so
yeah.
nice
Yes.
and really, really thoughtful of that person. I could
Yeah.
answer the question, but I couldn't know before, so it was
Yeah.
really, really approachable. So that's how the audience normally is, I would say, right? Do you
Yeah.
agree?
Of course. Yeah, I agree totally. They come to learn something or to hear about your experience, and not
Yeah.
to be mad at you usually. So that's actually not the case. And also, even if you can't answer a question, I think that's also an opportunity for yourself to learn, because maybe you are like, I never thought about that question even, but it's a good one. And I want to do some research afterwards and talk to that person again, or get back to that person. So I think it's also actually an opportunity to learn more yourself.
Absolutely. And you can connect. I mean, that's also what conferences are
Yes.
for, to connect and then share experiences afterwards. Or that person has own experiences and can directly share, and you can make your thoughts about it. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. So let's say 1,000 of follow-up questions, but I won't ask all of them. But I mean, we now discussed a bit your speaker journey so far, and what I find very interesting is like what impact do your talks have, let's say, right? I mean, on yourself, or maybe on your standing in a company, on how colleagues see you. Have you realized anything there? Like, is there a visible impact you can really see apart from everything you said about yourself so far?
I think for myself, it gives me a lot of opportunity to learn more, because I feel like when you're, for example, for me as a consultant, I go to the client, I try to solve the problem, but I kind of skip some side information about a tool or a framework or whatever, because I don't need it there. But whenever I start preparing a talk about that topic, I get into these details. I get more information about the fundamentals, because I really want the whole picture. And I think that's what I like personally, that I actually get even deeper into the topic. And I don't know, in my company, I love that, or I'm really, really thankful that my company supports being a speaker. So whenever I need time, resources, trainings, whatever I can imagine, I could just ask for it. And they would provide me anything I need, or almost anything, I guess. And that's really great. But I also don't think I'm like I don't know, superstar in the company or something like that. It's just like, it's just, I don't know. I guess people know that I like that. And whenever there's an opportunity, they might give me hints of like, oh, maybe you like this conference, or I saw this user group or whatever. And I think that's cool. And I also love to be there to support others if they think about giving a talk, or think about having a workshop, or how they could get this whole thing started. And I love to be there as an ally, and just like support them and help them with anything I could, or just like exchange experiences. I think
so you could now be the mentor and the peer for lesser experienced speakers, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a huge impact then, right? At
And
least
it's a great
from my
feeling.
perspective. You don't have to be a superstar, but also like, I mean, being able to do that is great, right? And to help others to share their journey. Cool. I think last question for today, and this is actually a question we will ask any speaker we will interview. Your ultimate hack, your personal and ultimate hack for fighting stage fright.
Oof. Well,
that's a mean one, I know. I mean, there's a lot of things out there. Like imagine all people wearing pajamas, or all people are naked, or something.
I don't know. That doesn't work for me, honestly.
For me neither. For me neither. So that's why I'm curious. Like, what is your hack, or what do you normally do when you see like, okay, I'm getting nervous now. Let's calm down. What are your tips?
I think in general, first of all, it's practice, practice, practice. Like, be really confident in your talk. And I really practiced my talk 100 or 1,000 times. It was like, oh, my food is in the oven for 20 minutes. I can just like practice my talk right now. It was like literally like that. I tried to take every minute. And then you could have woken me up at 3 a.m. and I could have had the talk instantly. And I think that gave me a lot of confidence to be not too nervous in general before getting on stage. And then right before that, I also love like breathing really deep and breathing out, especially because when you breathe out really deeply, you actually relax your body. And I think that's also a good kind of exercise to do before you get on stage.
Awesome. Thank you. That was a huge help. Thank you so much for our conversation. It was short, but very valuable. Thank you so much for your time. And next time we can meet you in person, I think is AWS Summit then, right? Or is there something else popping up before?
I don't think so. I think the summit is going to be the next time. Yeah.
Okay. So to anyone out there, if you want to meet Anna, if you want to chat with her, if you want to ask your own questions, then you might want to come to the summit. It's for free, I think, even so it's even better.
Yeah, I think so.
And it's in Hamburg. But apart
Yeah,
from that, I think if we can find you on LinkedIn, and I would guess it's okay if people approach you if they have any questions. Is that so?
of course. Yes.
Awesome. I should have checked that before, but I was pretty sure you will say
It's
yes.
fine.
Okay, so Anne, thank you so much. Have a lovely rest of the day.
You
And
too.
well, maybe see you soon.
See you. Thanks for having me.
Bye bye.
Bye.